I'd like to just tell you another brief note about one of our experiences after World War II. Dolores and I joined the bomb group in 1987, and we heard this great story. The Honorable Miriam Rothschild owned the land on which our base was built. And some of the fellows decided they'd like to build a monument there on the old base. And they went to Lady Miriam and told them their idea. And she gave us a 999-year lease for 999 peppercorns, payable 1 peppercorn per year. Pretty nice. 4 acres. So the monument was built. Dolores and I came along 6 years later, and we heard this marvelous story. I got to thinking, gee, you know, we ought to present some sort of a tribute to Miriam, Lady Miriam. And the guys heard about that, and they said, well, that's a great idea. I said, why don't you and Dolores do it? So the first thing I did, we agreed to do it, of course. The first thing I did was write a letter to Lady Miriam. And we arranged then to meet at her family home at Ashtonwold about 6 or 8 months later. That gave us a little lead time. So I prepared some words to be inscribed on this tribute document. We had Lisa Enkelbrecht, a student at Long Beach State College, do the calligraphy, and she did a gorgeous job. And then I got to thinking, well, gee, why not solicit letters from Merrill McPeak? He was then commanding general of the Air Force. And also, while we're at it, go after Prime Minister John Major and President George Bush, the first George. Well, they came through with flying colors, and we had all these things together. And then I got to thinking, well, gosh, this stuff is so fragile. If we try to ship it in the hold, it's going to get damaged. So I wrote a letter to British Air. We were going to fly British Air. And I got back, I told them about our problem, and I got back a marvelous letter which said, in effect, when you come to LAX that morning to fly to England, show this letter at the counter. Well, we showed the letter, and then when 400 people were called aboard, we were the first couple to go on board. And they escorted us to our seats, which were upgraded. And right beside my seat, in what's the 22 units upstairs, on the club deck, it's called, they had built a locker, padded, specifically to hold these tribute documents. They fit perfectly, because I'd given them all the dimensions. And I think the reason that they did it is because we said we were going to carry something from Prime Minister John Major. So we met with Lady Miriam after getting a car in downtown London and learning to drive on the opposite side of the road and so forth, around the roundabouts and all. And the meeting was arranged at her family estate. Now she is the granddaughter of the first Baron Rothschild. Now this is the man that made available all the money necessary to buy the Suez Canal for the British. So he was very well to do, and Lady Miriam herself had a fortune that was second only to the king at that time, who doesn't have to pay taxes. So the meeting was arranged, and we came to Ashtonwold, which was a house in the woods directly across from the base where I was stationed. I had no idea she lived there then. I had no idea there was a Lady Miriam Rothschild. In fact, I didn't have much of an idea about anything, because all I did during my 62 days on operations there was sleep, eat, fly, and take a shower. I got off the base a couple of times. Once because I was shot down, I had enough time to go up to London. And a couple other times we borrowed bicycles and drove through the countryside. And a couple of times went into Peterborough and walked around the neighborhoods and talked to people sitting on their porches who'd always offer us a cup of tea, no sugar, of course. Miriam Rothschild's library is 50 feet wide. It's on the south side of the house, on the sunny side. And there's a Bogendorfer piano at one end and a Steinway at the other, big grands. Gorgeous books along the wall, and one of those sliding ladders that I like so much, those sideways slide, you know. And finally we got seated on the couch, big luxurious couch. And I said, Lady Miriam, I'm just curious. I said, why have you made this marvelous lease for the 351st Monk Group? And she took my hand and she said, Jim, we owe the American people a debt of gratitude we can never hope to repay. It's an undying obligation. And we're so grateful to what you and what your countrymen have done here. That started a correspondence in 1991, which continues to this day, and the material enclosed takes folders 2 feet wide. Thank you much.
One question, Jim. How did your lifeguard experience come in or help you when you were swimming in the North Sea?
Well, I was very grateful that I'd been a lifeguard at one time. That helped a lot.
Yeah.
Okay, well, thank you very much, Jim.
I must tell you, when it was so cold, it was 50 degrees, and his teeth chattered so much he knocked out some fillings. And he couldn't spit them out, so he swallowed them.
Oh, that gets smart.